Hello, everyone. I am Fyruz Khan, and today I have business studies Edexcel. So I was supposed to take this class last night, but I was feeling really sleepy. I was jet lagged, so I didn't take it because I couldn't explain it properly. So now everything is fine. So we shall start right now. Let's wait for some viewers to join. Let's wait for some of our students to join, and we will start. I have a very interesting picture. So yeah, let's wait for some students to join, and we shall get back. If you haven't liked our page, just type in Fyruz Education Services. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just type in Fyruz Education Services again. Okay, you can also send me friend request if you want, because all our classes also run live in my personal page as well. So yeah. Um, Let's go ahead. So I have a very interesting picture here. It's a mouth-watering picture. Most of you may feel hungry. So it's a burger in the front, and there's a hazy Coke bottle at the back. So why do I have it? Now, when you eat a burger, after you've eaten a burger or after you've eaten biryani, you feel like to have a Coke, right? It feels like I shouldn't use this word, but it feels like an addiction. And it's very common. So when I have a burger or when I have a biryani, there's a crave inside me to have a bottle of Coke or a can of Coke. So that's the master stroke. That's the genius of this brand or of this company. Okay, and let me tell you more about this company. It started in 1886 in Georgia, Atlanta. I was lucky enough to see their factory in Atlanta, and it's huge, it's big. But it wasn't big, like this all the time. It had a very humble start. When Coke was started in 1886, it was marketed as a medicine. Okay, yeah. In 1886, in its first year, in 12 months, they only sold 25 bottles. Just in the first year, only 25 bottles of Coke. As of today, right now, as we are taking the class, okay, every day, I'm not talking about a year, every day it sells 1.8 billion bottles across the whole world. Just think about it. In 1886, it just sold 25 bottles. And now it's 1.8 billion bottles a day. So if you're not doing good, don't worry. It's just a matter of time. You just have to work hard. So you can calculate the way companies calculate their sales or revenue. It depends. For example, here they calculated 25 bottles in its first year. You can also do it monthly. You can also do it daily. But you need to know the sales. You need to know, because if you don't know the number of units, if you don't know the sales, then you will not know what's the sales revenue. You will not know how much you're generating. So it's very important to know to calculate in some way. Now, every product will have will do it differently. For example, burgers, you will calculate, if you want to know your sales, revenue, and profit, you will calculate how many burgers you've sold, the number of units. Okay. Same with Coke, you will calculate the number of units, how many bottles, how many cans. That's how it happens, right? So, yeah, a bit about Coke, a bit about how much they sold in the first year in 1886 and how much it sells right now, 1.8 billion bottles a day. So, if I want to know how much Coke the revenue of Coke, then 1.8 billion bottles, I can calculate on that. So okay, they sell 1.8 billion bottles. What is the price per each bottle? Just multiply and you will know the revenue. You will know the sales. That's how it happens. So every business needs to measure or monitor sales level, because if you don't monitor sales level, you will not know the sales revenue, you will not know the profit, you will not know the cost. Okay, so you need to know the number of units. And for each business, it may be a bit different. For each uh, business, it may be a different. Zavir, yes, it is a complement to spicy food. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. So you need to know the number of units. You need to know how much you're selling, how many bottles, how many units. Let's have a look with. Let me give you some examples. For example, let's say in a university or college, the way you will see their sales revenue, the way you will calculate the sales revenue is number of students, number of children studying in a school, in a college, in a university. So it'll be done by using number of students. Simple. Next, if you want to check, if you want to calculate electricity, if you want to know the sales revenue of electricity, it'll be calculated in megawatts. Okay. If you want to check the sales revenue of, let's say, milk, you need to know how many liters of milk you sold. Liters. Okay. If you want to know the sales revenue of Audi cars or of any cars, you need to know again the number of cars. How many cars have you sold? Okay. How many cars? Let's say 100 cars into that specific unit. Okay. Right. Let's go ahead. So there are some examples on the slide. You can take a screenshot if you want. I will email you the slides as well, my students, so you can see. So serial farmer, he will check tons, car manufacturer number, airplane, number of passengers, music tutor, number of hourly lessons given, hotel, number of rooms that you've given. So yeah, so there are some interesting examples here. You can have a look at it. But for each business, what I'm trying to say is, for each business, it's going to be different, as we've seen here. For milk, it's liters. For students, number of students. For cars, number of cars. For electricity, megawatts. Okay. For hotel, how many rooms are available or how many rooms you've sold. Okay. So there you go. Let's go ahead. So sales revenue, it can be calculated within a specific time period. It can be day, like we've seen Coke sells per day, they sell 1.8 or 7 billion bottles per day. You can also do it monthly if you want. You can also do it yearly if you want. But it should be consistent. If it's daily, then do it daily. If it's monthly, do it monthly. All companies do, daily. They also do monthly. They also do yearly, because if you do it in an Excel sheet, you can find out daily sales, monthly sales, weekly sales. It's quite easy. Okay. You can also do product wise. Let's say in your company, you have these two products. Okay. So you want to know the sales revenue of iPhone. You can also do, product category wise. So what is the, let's say, sales revenue of iPhone? Let's say $1 million. Okay. What is the sales revenue of AirPods? Let's say $50,000. You can also do product wise, product categories. Okay, according to different product categories, like brands like Apple, brands like Samsung, they have so many products, right? 5, 6, 7, 8 different kinds of products. Samsung sells anything: fridge, microwave, phone, tablets, television. So they will keep the sales revenue according to product categories, because the product portfolio range is quite huge. You can also do it product wise. iPhone will tell you that they've sold some million units of iPhone, or their sales revenue for iPhone is, let's say, $1 billion. So what I'm trying to say is, you can do product wise as well. So the formula of sales revenue is just given here. You can do price, price into quantity of output. If you want to know the sales revenue of iPhone, let's say the price of this iPhone is $400. Okay, yeah, it's cheap. This is the cheapest iPhone, $400. And let's say how many units you've produced. Let's say you've produced 100,000, and you will get your sales revenue. Let me remind you, sales revenue is not the profit. Whatever sales revenue you get, sales revenue is the total amount of money that you've collected from selling the product. And then you have to minus the expenses. We will talk about that. Okay. So some example, let's say you have stones. Let's say you sell stones. This is a book example. Let's say you sell stones, right? So there's a company called Gardex Mining Limited, and they sold this much of tons of stones, and the price per ton. So how do you calculate stones ton? For milk, it's liters. For students, it's number of students. For cars, it's number of cars. For stones, it's tons. So per ton is $12.60. So sales revenue will be $12.60 into this, and you will get this amount. That's the sales revenue. That's how it happens. It is the total money collected by selling the product. It's not the profit. Now, if you want to know the profit, এটার সাথে expenses minus করলে you will get the profit. That's how it happens. This is not the profit. This is the sales revenue, total amount generated by selling your product. Okay, great. We're having a great class. Let's go ahead. So business cost. So costs are very important. It needs to be accurate. It needs to be reliable, because if it's not accurate, if your sales revenue is not accurate, your profit will not be accurate, your break-even chart will not be accurate, your all other costs will not be accurate. Okay, sometimes you will have extra output, so you need to know the costs properly. For example, in your personal life, you have a monthly budget. Yes, let's say your monthly budget, you spend 6,000 taka on food. For travel, you spend 2,500 taka. For books, 1,500. Miscellaneous means other expenses, 1,000. In a month, you spend 11,000 taka, and you have that idea, right? Every month you have an idea inside you that you spend around 11,000 taka, right? So that's fine. But in business also, you need to have an idea that, my monthly wages, my monthly salaries is 50,000. Rent is around 35,000. Raw materials that you buy and make your products or goods is 76,000. Your insurance is 20,000. Total is 1,81,000. So you need to know, how much you're spending in a month. What's your monthly business budget? Because if you don't know that, then it'll be difficult. Because if you don't know, a basic monthly figure, it may be difficult, because in some months you may have extra cost. So it'll be difficult for you to understand the extra costs as well. Okay. So you should have a basic idea that, okay, monthly, how much I'm spending in my personal life, or how much I'm spending in my business. And then if your cost increases, you can differentiate that, every month I'm spending 11,000 taka, but this month 15,000. Why? Because I spent 4,000 more on perfumes. Similarly, in business, let's say every month you spend 1,81,000 taka, but this month you spend, let's say, 2 lakhs. 19 or 20,000 taka more. Why? Because of this reason. So this is why you need to know the basic figure. Quite important, because your output may increase, your cost may increase. So you want to differentiate. Okay? So in the short run, your production may increase. For example, let's say during Christmas, the demand increases. During Eid, the demand for Punjabi and Salwar kameez increases, right? But it's just for short term. It's not for long term. You don't need to buy machines. You don't need to buy extra land or office space. It's just seasonal. So what you need to do is hire more labor. You have to buy more raw materials. That's what you need to do. Okay, so that's for short run. You don't have to buy more machines. You don't have to buy new office space or new land. That's just for short run, just for the time being. It's seasonal, because during Christmas, the demand for clothes and other products, other related products increases. Even during Eid, the demand of everything increases. Yeah. Okay. So this is short term you know, short-term expenses. You also have, but if this short-term expenses continue, okay, over a period of time, for example, let's say this busy period, if it continues for 5 months, 6 months, 1 year, then you may have a problem. So then you have to buy new machines. You might need another factory. You might have to buy more machines, or employ more people, because you're constantly getting busy. Now it's not for short term. It's not just during Eid or Christmas. It's happening throughout the year. So this is why you need more office space, you need more capacity, you need more machines, you need more labor. Okay, so business cost may increase for two reasons. Short term, during seasonal variations, it happens sometimes in the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, um, during, if a product is very popular, or during festivals. But if it continues, then it's long term. And for long term, you need to buy machines, you need to have extra, you need to increase the capacity, okay, you need to increase your office space, and all those things, right? Now let's say for an airline company, like Emirates, if they're constantly getting busy, then they may need to buy more planes to fit in more passengers. Otherwise, you will not be able to give them, or able to provide service, and that may impact your reputation, right? I think we have some few questions. Let me just check my inbox. No, everybody is in. So great. Business costs. Let's go ahead. So now let's start with fixed cost. It's very easy. It's basic. It's as I say, it's kids stuff. Okay. Fixed cost. Fixed cost means the cost that remains the same all the time. Some examples: it may be rent, it may be insurance, it may be electricity bills, heating bills. These are all fixed cost. Okay. Factories, capital costs, machineries. If I buy, let's say, if I buy an iPad for my company, it's a fixed cost because it's a one-off cost. I bought this iPad for my company actually 4 years back, and it's still running. So it's fixed cost because the cost remains the same. I'm not buying this every day. My rent is the same. Let's say my rent is 50,000 taka. It's the same. Fixed cost, it never changes. Now, for fixed cost, let's say I have an office and I can teach 50 students. But let's say I'm not getting busy. Instead of 50 students, I just have 20 students. Whether I have 20 students, 30 students, 40 students, or 50 students, it doesn't matter. My cost will remain the same. My landlord will still charge me 50,000 taka because that's my rent. He won't say, okay, Fyruz, you're not getting busy. You don't have enough of students. Pay me 10,000 taka or pay me 20,000 taka. It doesn't happen the same. Rent remains the same. Electricity bill remains the same. Heating remains the same. So fixed cost will never change. Okay? Here, fixed means costs do not change irrespective of the output. The output may increase, it may decrease. I may have 100 students, I still have to pay my rent 50,000 taka. I may have 10 students, I still have to pay 50,000 taka. It doesn't change. Okay? Here is an example. See, $400,000. Here, the fixed cost remains the same. It doesn't change. And it can be represented, fixed cost can be represented on a straight line because it's never changing. Okay? But there may be special situations. Let's say my rent now is 50,000 taka. What happens if it changes after 3 months or after 2 years? From 50,000, it may be 65,000 because we know rents may change. Rents may increase. In special cases, it may decrease as well. Like, our rent has decreased because of COVID situation. The landlord was very generous enough and he said, "Kauriya to ব্যবসা নাই, so আমি rent কমিয়ে দিচ্ছি." But it happens in rare cases. Mostly your rent increases. Okay, so what happens if it increases? Can you still represent fixed cost on a separate line, on on a straight line. No, what happens then? Let's say my rent is 50,000, okay, and it increases to 65,000. So it increases, and this will remain the same again until and unless there's a further change. And this is known as stepped fixed cost. It is known as stepped fixed cost because the costs have changed. Because my rent used to be 50,000 here, the landlord has increased after 2 years. Now it is 65,000. So it's increased, and now it's 65,000 here. So it is called stepped fixed cost. Okay, so rents may increase. It's not just about increasing in rents. It may happen that you may have to buy new equipment. You may have to buy new machinery. You may have to increase your office space. Then what happens? Okay, let's say I'm getting busy and now I need a bigger space. So instead of 65,000, my rent is 65,000. Now it increases to 80,000 because I need a bigger space. I need more machines. I need more labor. So fixed cost is increasing. Wages is also fixed cost. Let's say I have 5 people employed under me. Okay, and my monthly salary that I give to other people is 1 lakh. But since I'm getting busy, it's increased to 1,50,000. Okay, so it will increase from 1 lakh to 1,50,000. So that is stepped fixed cost. So it happens in different situation. In case of wages, if you need more people, if your rents increases, if you need to buy new equipment, if you need to increase production, if you have to hire, bigger office space. So there we go, right? Sorry. Yeah, great. Let's go ahead. So I have an example for you. Now we've talked about fixed costs. Now we're going to talk about something else. I hope you're enjoying the class. I can see a lot of viewers. I can see a lot of likes and loves, which is great. Sorry, I think I may rush a little bit because my daughter is sleeping on the other room. My wife isn't here. So yeah, but we'll do it in the proper way. Now, let me give you one more example. Let's say you have 100 cans of Coke, and per can, the cost is 3 BDT. So it's 300 BDT. Okay. Then what happens? You have, let's say your units have increased, 130 cans of Coke, but your rate is the same. Rate will always remain the same. 3 BDT, 390. As you can see, the costs have increased. This is 300 because you've produced 100 cans of Coke, and per unit it's 3. But here you are producing 130. You're producing more, 30 more. So it's 390. So the variable cost here is, if you do 390 minus 300, it's 90. So you have an extra cost. Costs that vary is known as variable cost, and this happens with when your raw materials increases, when you need to order more. In this case, you have 100 cans of Coke because the demand was 100, but now let's say the demand has increased. So we produced more. So when you produce more, you need more materials, you need more Coke, you need more cans, you need more packaging, everything increases. So now it's 390. So the variable cost is 90. Let me give you more example. Let's say a worker in your company works 8 hours, and per hour you pay him or her 100 taka per unit, per hour, 100 taka per hour. So this person gets 800 taka when he or she works for 8 hours. Now, if he or she works for 12 hours, see, the unit rate will be the same. It's 100. The unit rate will be the same. So it increases to 1,200. And when you minus or deduct this, 1,200 minus 800, it's 400. So your variable cost is 400 because now this person is working more. Okay. So again, variable cost, you will have variable cost in many cases. Variable cost means the cost that does not remain the same, that varies. The name itself tells you it varies. Okay. So when you produced 100 cans of Coke, it was 300. When you produced 130 cans of Coke, it was 390. It varied. The variable cost is 90. When a worker worked for 8 hours, it was 800. When a worker worked for 12 hours, it's 1200. And variable cost can occur in different situations. So costs of production which increase directly as output rises. So when your output rises, your cost of production will also increase. If I make 50 iPhones, it may be 5,000 taka. Now, if I make 100 iPhones, it may be 9,000 or 10,000 taka, because I need more screens, I need more chips, I need more cases, I need more raw materials. Okay, and it may happen for different reasons, for different things. Okay, you may need more fuel, you need more packaging for wages. So variable costs mean costs that do not remain the same, that changes, especially when output rises, when you need more raw materials. Okay, and the formula for total variable cost, which is TVC, total variable cost, is variable cost per unit into output. Okay, so you have to look at, so in this case, my variable cost per unit was 90. In this case, my variable cost per unit was 400. So 90 into how many units have you produced? 400 into how many units you've produced. Okay, so we'll look at this example. For example, let's say a doll company makes dolls and the variable cost is 2 pounds per doll. We're not saying the cost of the doll is 2 pounds, but we're saying the variable cost, the increase in cost is 2 pounds per doll. So when you produce 100,000 dolls, it's 200,000 pounds. But when you produce, let's say, 600,000 dolls, it's a million. Okay, and that is represented here. See, costs increases. It is also represented on a fixed line, but it's increasing because when you produce 100,000 dolls, it's 200,000 pounds. Okay, but when you produce 600,000 dolls, it's double. Okay, so there you go. And therefore it can be shown in this way. So when you produce 200, when you produce 100,000 dolls at here, it was this. When you produce 600,000 dolls, it's here. So it can be represented on a fixed line, but this is increasing. This is an inclined slope. But if you look at fixed cost, it remains the same until and unless it increases. It increases and then remains the same. Again, it may increase and it may remain the same. Okay, but for variable cost, you've produced 100,000 dolls at 2 pounds, it's 200,000, then it increases still here. If you produce 600,000 dolls, again at 2 pounds, then it's here. Okay, so that is variable cost. Notice that the graph is linear. So this is called linear. Linear means it increases. It's like this. It's a straight line, but it's linear. It's increasing. Okay? I would also like to tell you some interesting thing. This is not in the syllabus, but when I was a student like you, I had a question. For example, have you ever thought about electricity bills? Now, electricity bills are also considered to be fixed cost. But my question was, when I was a student like you, electricity bill always varied. For example, in February, your electricity bill may be 2,000 taka. For March, it may be 2,500 taka. Because let's say it's hot, you've used more ACs. That's totally fine. So my question was, since the amount is different, it should be considered as variable cost. But then it is not actually. I asked my professor at University of Leicester, and she said that it can be considered, it can be variable and it can be fixed cost as well. How? I'll tell you. Yes, in this case, it can be considered as variable because for February, your electricity bill was BDT 2,000. Okay. For March, it was Taka 2,500. So it has changed. Okay, it has changed because you've used more units. In March, you've used 125 units. For February, you've used 100 units. So it has changed. So it can be considered for as a variable cost as well. But if you see, the unit price remains the same. 20 taka, 20 taka. That's why it is considered to be a fixed cost, because the unit price will be the same. It depends on your usage. It depends on your usage. And this is true for electricity bills, for gas bills, for fuel. Okay, depends on your usage. And I wanted to talk about it and let you know. Okay, because I always had a confusion when I was in at your age, when I was doing accounting, that why is electricity bills considered to be variable cost, where the bills are always different every month. But here we have to look at the unit cost. The unit cost does not change. The unit cost is 20 taka. It may change after a year, after 2 years. This is a fixed cost actually. And when it increases, let's say from 20 taka, if it increases to 25, it'll be a stepped fixed cost. And 25 taka will remain the same for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And then again, it may increase. So here, the unit cost is fixed. That's why we consider electricity bills, gas bills as fixed costs, right? And then we talk about total cost. Very easy. You take fixed cost, okay, rent, wages, all those costs, take your variable cost, your raw materials, increase in output, add them, and you will get the total expenses, cost of producing an item, cost of producing a product. Okay, fixed cost, because in order to make this iPhone, you needed to pay rent. Yes, rent of factories, rent of offices, wages, salaries. So take that and take the material cost, add them up, you get the total cost. So total cost is very easy. Fixed cost plus variable cost, and you get total cost. So you add this plus this, okay, and you get total cost, right? And that is the total expense of producing a product, producing a Coke, an iPhone, an iPad, anything, right? So we'll stop here. Great. Zavir, seasonal change. Yes, great. My daughter is still sleeping, which is a good news. She hasn't waked up. She has woken up. So there was no interruption. If you really like our class, subscribe to our page, like our page, Fyruz Education Services on Facebook. You can also like our YouTube channel. Again, type in Fyruz Education Services. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to comment on the comment section. I will be here to take the questions. Thank you very much for being with me. If you have any problem, I can take your calls. I can take your messages. I will see you in the next class. I think the next class is on Tuesday with Edexcel, Business Studies AS Edexcel. So I'll see you guys. Thank you very much. Stay well.